Today I want to talk to you about the Millionaire Time Machine, how I use time to travel for building wealth. What? Yeah, in fact, in our company, in our consulting in our consulting programs, our coaching programs, we give away $100,000 day awards. Not just $100,000 awards, not just day awards, but we put the two together and we give away a $100,000 day award. We have $1 million day award that we give away. We have a $5 million day award. We have a $10 million day award. And we've had clients who've achieved all of those. That's mind blowing. And so today I want to talk to you about this subject, how I use time travel for building wealth. Do you use time travel for building wealth? So I just asked the question to our studio audience here in Tampa. I said, how far are we from Orlando? Some people said 2 hours depending on traffic. One person said 60 miles. Well, which is it? Well, it's both. Objectively, it's both. But I want to ask you a question then. Somebody said, well, if you can travel through time. And I said, can you travel through time? They said, no. Is it really possible? And if it's possible to travel through time, is it possible for you? Those are some of the questions I'm going to answer, or at least attempt to answer today, which is kind of a mind-blowing concept. When I was a child, I was fascinated by a show that used to come on television in the 60s called The Time Tunnel. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the time tunnel, but it was about these people who'd go into a tunnel and they would come out in a totally different era. Well, I don't know that that kind of time travel is possible, but I don't believe that it's totally impossible just because we haven't figured out how to do it. And the reason I believe that, I don't have time to go into right now. I believe the answer to the question, is time travel possible and is it possible for you, is an absolutely resounding yes. In fact, all travel is time travel. Now, if you don't understand that all travel is time travel, and you think of time as a linear line or arrow like this, if you think of time like this, and you think of it as an arrow that looks like this, and the past, the present, and the future, you probably don't believe time travel is possible for you because you think of time as something outside of yourself, and you think of time as being this constant, exterior, existing thing that has control over you and affects you in ways that you can't do anything about. Some people call that Newtonian time because Sir Isaac Newton envisioned time in this manner. Until when? Until Albert Einstein came up with his famous formula, E equals what? MC squared, right? E equals MC squared, or energy equals mass times a constant, which basically means that time is relative depending on who's moving and how fast they're moving. And I'm going to show, I think I'm going to give you a really, really good, clear illustration to help you understand the importance of time travel and thinking of time as time travel, right? So the board is offline and it's not giving me my thing. So I'm gonna go over here and talk while Jawan fixes that for me. So I'm going to read something to you while he's working on that, and it's going to really help you in ways that you cannot begin to imagine. So I think it's going to help you. how most people think of time. What is time? Most people think of time as a linear and forward moving, an arrow that only goes in one direction from past to present to future. You can go back. You can't go back. You can't skip ahead. You're stuck on a conveyor belt. That's how most people think of time. Would y'all agree with that? Yes? Yes. Okay. So they think of it as being fixed and external, like a river flowing down with no control, with no control over the current. Time happens to you, not something that you can manipulate or control. Would y'all agree that most people think of time that way? Like time is just something that happens. I don't have any control over time. Okay. They also think of time as a scarce and limited resource. There's never enough of it. Time is money, okay, which is a farce, but we don't have time to go there. Time is something that we're running out of. Most people think of time as the ultimate non-renewable resource that you're always losing. Like, if that's how you think of time, wouldn't that make you feel stuck? Don't you? Most people feel like a hopeless, helpless victim of time. But I promise you, you are not a hopeless, helpless victim of time. You're a hopeless, helpless victim of the way you view time. Unless you change the way you view time. And then you don't have to be a hopeless, helpless victim of how you view time anymore. They think of time as an objective reality. Everyone experiences the same timeline at the same rate. And what happened yesterday for you happened yesterday for everyone. And the last thing that I'm going to mention is that people think of time as a sequential cause and effect. Today's actions create tomorrow's results, so you can have outcomes. You can't have outcomes before you do the work. So that's how most people think of time. And if that's how you think of time, you're going to feel very stuck. Because now you have this thing that's bigger than you. It's existed longer than you. We're good. Okay. It's existed longer than you, and now you're like, I'm at the mercy of time. You're not at the mercy of time. And I'm going to prove it to you. And I think this illustration will help you the most. And if you make fun of my drawing, you're never allowed to come back. Okay. So we have the West Coast over here. I'm just going to write West Coast. We have the East Coast over here. East Coast. I'm not going to draw a map, but I'm going to say you're going to travel from the West Coast to the East Coast. And you're going to travel on a wagon train. Okay, that was a terrible horse. Okay, I'm just going to do it like this. I said don't make fun of my drawing. Okay, so you're going to travel on a wagon train. You're going to go from the West Coast to the East Coast in a wagon train. So here's my question. How long is that going to take? Okay, how many months? Just let's guesstimate. How many? 6 months. That's exactly the number I was thinking about. So this person it's going to take them 6 months to get from the West Coast to the East Coast. But, so this person is traveling in a wagon train. Okay. The next person is going to travel in a car. East Coast to West Coast. Give them a little aerodynamics on their car. Okay? How long is it going to take this person to get from the East Coast to the West Coast? 3 days. That's a little faster. Okay? Now, this person is going to travel on a jet plane. It's a Learjet, small one. Okay. It's got their little engines coming here with all the stuff coming out the back. This person's traveling in a jet plane. How long is it going to take them to get there? 5 hours. So, here's the question. Linearly, all of these people have the same amount of time, don't they? But this person is going to get here 6 months from now. This person is going to get here 3 days from now. So when this person gets to the west, when the person in the car gets to the west coast, to the east coast, how much more time do they have there than the person in the wagon train? How much more time will they have there? 5 months and 27 days. 5 months, 27 days. They get 5 months and 27 more days there. This person gets there in 5 hours. They get 6 months and 6 months and 19 hours more than this person. So this person gets here. They got 6 months. 6 months and 19 hours. 5 months, 29 days and 19 hours. So so these people, when they get to their desired destination, they have more time there. They just time travel. Oh, snap. Does that change? Do you all understand how that changes the game? They just traveled through time by different modalities. So when they get to the desired destination, they have more time. This is the difference. This is how poor people think about time. This is how middle class people think about time. This is how rich people think about time. See, the average person thinks about how much time has elapsed since. That's this person right here. The person who's a little above average, they think, okay, how much time is it going to take me to do this? But people who live up here are always thinking about, if I get this done faster, how much more time will I have? This is why I always talk about, people say, Myron, if you could go back and talk to your 25-year-old self and give yourself some advice, what would you say? I would say, you are going to get rich. You're going to get really, really rich. It's going to happen in your 40s unless you do it faster. And I would recommend do it faster, because the faster you get it done, the longer you get to enjoy it with the people you love the most. Myron, why do you always talk about money? Because money makes time more valuable, just like time makes money more valuable if you have the right investments. You say, what do you mean money makes time more valuable? Because if you have more money, you can shorten the amount of time it takes you to get anything done, which means for the rest of your life, you have more time. How about that for a mind bend? Right? So what happens is, I don't think of time as something that happens to me. I think of time as something I happen to. I take this to a whole lot of extremes that the average person would probably think are crazy. But that's okay. They're entitled to their beliefs. And they may be right. Maybe it is crazy. But it works really well for me. So I think about the fact, people, it's too expensive to fly on a private jet. That's insane. Why would you spend that much money to fly on a private jet? Why would you spend 100 times more money to go somewhere than you have to spend? Well, because I value time more than I value money. Because time is the stuff that life is made of. Money's just money. And some people may say, oh, that's so wasteful. Okay. Well, if you'd rather waste time than money, be my guest. I would rather waste money than time. And I'm not wasting money. I'm investing the money to buy back my time. This is why I don't clean my house. I pay somebody to do that. This is why I don't clean my pool. I pay somebody. This is why I don't cut my grass. Cut my grass? I'm allergic to cutting grass, which is not the same as being allergic to grass. Okay? Okay, you'll get that one on the way home. Because it's not a good use of my time. It's like the stuff I say to me sounds normal. And then when people ask me a question, I answer them. Sometimes they look at me like their head's about to explode. Like, what do you mean? Right? So, people say, so I'd like for you to come speak. What are your requirements? Well, I charge $250,000 an hour. plus my jet fee. And my jet fee is $11,500 an hour there and back, and all of my accommodations while I'm there. Now, why do I tell people? And I'm not trying to talk you into it. I'm just telling you that's what now, some people say, how can you tell somebody you're going to charge them $250,000 to talk? Well, it's easy. Because if I were speaking at my own event and I were making an offer, I might make $1 million in an hour. I'm giving you a break. I understand how valuable my time is. And just because you don't value your time as much as I value my time, that doesn't make my time less valuable just because you can't see the value in it. Here's my question. What if you started believing about your time that it's as valuable as I believe my time is? How would that change your life? At least in a couple of ways. And some of you are watching me right now thinking, this man is insane. He is delusional. Yes, I am. But so is everybody else. I like my version of insanity better than most people's. So, last month, I did 3 hours of one-on-one coaching for clients who wanted to hire me for one-on-one coaching at $40,000 an hour. So I worked 3 hours last month. It generated $120,000 in revenue for our business for 3 hours worth of work. Now, that $40,000 an hour sounds insane to most people. But it doesn't sound insane to me. Because if you want to spend an hour talking to me about your business, and we're going to just sit down and talk, just me and you and nobody else, and I'm going to help you figure out something that's going to make you millions of dollars, if you think I'm going to do that for less than $40,000 an hour, you have me confused with Byron Silver. And it's not because I'm all that in a bag of chips. That's not the reason. It's just because I understand the results I've already helped people get. So time, instead of thinking of time like the arrow or like the wagon train or like something outside of myself, what if I use time as a tool? And what if time as a tool and how you use that tool makes all the difference to what? Everything in your life. Do you realize if you don't have to be on the East Coast for 6 months and you get there in 5 hours, you can do anything you want for 5 months, 29 days and 19 hours. You literally get to multiply your time. So most people measure the value of time by how many years of experience they have doing a thing. I measure the value of my time by how many experiences I put in those years. And see, I got this idea from Jim Rohn. He said, if you're going to live 20 more years and you take one vacation a year, you don't get 20 more years of vacation, you get 20 more times. You go on vacation 20 more times. And then I started thinking, yeah, that makes sense. But what if you could take 2 vacations a year? That's 40 years worth of vacations in 20 years. What if you could take 5 vacations a year over the next 20 years? That's 100 years. Do you realize that when you understand the concept of traveling through time, like I'm explaining it to you, or at least to the best of my ability right now, do you understand that it literally multiplies the amount of experiences you get to put in your years? So you could, even though you're going to, let's say you live to be 100 from wherever you are right now, that's a finite number of years. But just because it's a finite number of years doesn't mean it has to be a finite number of experiences. I mean, the same finite number of experiences that the average person, whatever that is, has. And so, if I use time as a tool for measuring miles or distance, or I could use time as a tool to measure meaning, or I could use time as a tool to measure my missed opportunities or my mistakes. Here's my question. What are you using time to measure right now? Well, if you're one of those people who's who basically lives a regret-filled life about all the things you didn't do in the past, you're using time to measure all of your mistakes and missed opportunities. If you're using time as a tool to measure meaning, then what you're doing is you're going to fill your time with learning things that increase your ability to understand meaning. So that when you're executing and expressing, you're executing and expressing at a higher level because things mean more to you than they do to most people. So I have this thing that, this perspective that if I go to a restaurant and the experience starts out bad and then it gets a little worse, I'm not ordering any food. Even if I'm with people. I'll stay there with them. I'll enjoy their company, but I'm not going to order food. I'm done. Why am I done? Because I believe that God intended for meals to be enjoyed, not endured. So therefore, I am not going to take the only breakfast, lunch, or dinner that I'm having this day. The only one that the only time I'll ever have this meal this day is in my whole life is right now. So I treat it like it's special, like it matters, like it's the most important meal of my life. Every meal is like that for me. And so if it's a bad experience, now I've got a bad experience as a meal that God intended to be a good experience. I'd rather wait to get home and eat something I enjoy and be at peace. Now, to a lot of people, that's weird. I get it. And maybe it is weird, but it works really, really well for me. So, when you're using time as a tool of measurement, here are 3 questions you're going to ask. How much have I used? How much of my time have I already used? I think this is the biggest misconception about time. The only way people use time to measure is they measure how much time I've already used. Yeah, I already missed that opportunity. Yeah, I could have, would have, should have, but I didn't, so now it's too late. And that's how people go through life thinking about their time. It doesn't, that does not serve you. And it doesn't give you the ability to serve anybody else. Or, not how much I used, I've found out that a better way to measure time is how much do I have left. And one of the coolest hacks of life that I've ever discovered as a Millionaire Time Machine, the faster I make money, the more money I have to buy back the rest of my life. See, I use money as a tool to buy back time. Why? Because I believe that time is infinitely more valuable than money. And I would rather trade a whole bunch of money to get back a little bit of time than waste a whole lot of time attempting to save a little bit of money. It's a perspective change. This is why there's nothing wrong with Walmart, but I'll never go there if I can help it, and I can help it. Why? It's too big. Takes too long to find stuff. Customer service is terrible. And I'm not going to waste my life. I would rather pay more somewhere else, in a smaller store where I can get right to it. I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that. I'm not, to each his own. But I don't want to waste time a whole bunch of times. I'm not going to drive all over town looking for 4 cents less a gallon on gas. I don't even know how much gas costs. And I don't know. It's not that I'm so rich that I don't care how much gas costs. It's that I have to put gas in my car anyway, so I don't care how much gas costs. Anyway, so how much do I have left? Well, here's the answer to that question. The sooner you get there, the more of it you have left over. That's the answer. How much do I have left? The faster you move through time relative to other people, the more life you get to live relative to other people. And see, I don't think anybody taught us to view time this way. In fact, most of my life, most of the adults, boy, you better slow down. I'm like, why would I slow down? The slower I go, the faster time moves. But the faster I go, the slower time moves relative to me, right? If I'm in a car going in this direction, going 60 miles an hour, and you're in a car going that way, going 60 miles an hour, the relative time when we cross each other's paths is 120 miles per hour. So time doesn't exist in a vacuum. Time is relative. Is what I'm saying making some sense? Okay, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best to describe this in a way that will give you the ability to do something about it, not just think about it and say, "Oh, that was interesting." It's more than interesting. It's worth diving into. It's worth engaged. This is a conversation worth engaging your life into, I believe. So, and then if you're instead of measuring the past by looking at the past and measuring how much have I used, instead, what if you looked in the past to ask yourself the question and measure how far have I come? How much have I used is discouraging. How far have I come is really encouraging, right? Oh, I've wasted so much time. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I wasted so much time. Oh man, I wish I would have gotten started earlier. And how's that serving you? Like people ask me, and I know what they mean when they say, "Where were you when I was 26?" I don't know. I wasn't here. Unless you're 26 now, right? I didn't know this stuff when I was 26, right? Probably didn't know it when you were 26, but I know it now. And like I'm talking about this as if it is emphatically the way life is. It is not emphatically the way life is. It's emphatically the way my life is. It could be emphatically the way your life is if you decide to make it so. So time is a tool for measuring, but time is also a tool for multiplying. First of all, for multiplying resources. And when I say resources, I'm talking about money and other assets. Time is a tool for multiplying those. Let's talk about multiplying cash flow. One of the things that you can do to travel through time and have more time left when you get there, wherever there is increase the speed of your cash flow. We've been programmed to believe that it's normal, because it's common, to get paid once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month, because that's how often our employers will. There's nothing wrong with that. But maybe if you're serious, not curious about life, maybe there's something wrong with just that. Like when I had a job, I still had a business. Because as Jim Rohn said, I go to work on my job to make a living. I go to work on my business to make a fortune. I use my work time, my non-discretionary time to do my job, but I use my discretionary time to work on my business. So time is a tool for multiplying assets. And I am telling you, as this is from experience now, I am telling you, the faster you make money, and I know you've been warned your whole life about get-rich-quick schemes. I get it. But somebody should have warned you about the stay broke for the rest of your life scheme. Because that's the one most people have bought into. And I would rather get rich quick than stay broke for the rest of my life. In fact, I believe that wealth is measured more in time than it is in money anyway. Because if you make $1 million, are you rich? Here's the answer. It depends. How long did it take you to make it? If it takes you 40 years to make $1 million, you're not rich. And you probably won't have much of it left over. But if you make that same $1 million in a year, you're 40 times richer than the person who made it over 40 years, even though you both made the same amount of money. So the faster you make money, the more you multiply the value of time. Is what I'm saying making sense? Yes. If you make $1 million a month, you're 12 times richer than the person who makes $1 million a year, and 480 times richer And by the way, not just richer, you have 480 times more time than the person who makes $1 million in 40 years. So literally, if if you're only going to make $1 million in your lifetime, if you sped that up and you made 480 million, you started making $1 million a month, and you did that for 40 years, literally you get to live the experiences of 480 years of what that cash flow could buy you. It's not the money's just the money. Don't make the mistake of thinking the money is the objective. The money is like time. It's a tool. It's something that you can direct. So we multiply resources over time. We can multiply results or accomplishments and achievements by figuring out how we can get them done faster. There's never been a time in human history where we could get more done in less time than right now. We can get more research done. We can get more manufacturing done. We can get more advertising done. We can get more promotion done. We can create more content than we've ever been able to create in the past. Like, we live in such an amazing time, but because everything's available and everyone's available to everyone else, we have access to anybody who has a device that's connected to the internet, and all those people have access to us, but because we don't know what to do with it, and it feels overwhelming because now information is multiplying, or as the scripture says, knowledge is multiplying in the last days. So now, 1,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, people had all the time in the world to get ready for whatever the next change was going to be. Now we usually have a couple of months to tool up if a train's leaving the station. That's why it feels so overwhelming. It feels overwhelming not because you're not smart. It feels overwhelming because the amount of time you have to prepare is less. But the good news is the amount of tools that you have to prepare are more, which means you don't need as much time as you used to unless you're going to keep doing things the way you've always done them. And then you get to stay stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck. Okay. So time is a tool for multiplying resources. Time is a tool for multiplying results or accomplishments. Time is also a tool for multiplying reserves. As time goes by, we want to make sure that we are constantly increasing the speed of our cash flow. This is $1 Million Mondays. I'm talking to you about making money. Why? Because if you're listening to me right now, you'd probably like to make more. And so, you want to increase the speed of your cash flow, but one of the reasons you want to increase the speed of your cash flow is to take some of that cash flow and put it in your dry powder reserves so that when an opportunity presents itself, now you can take advantage of that opportunity. Woe unto the business owner who spends every dime out of every dollar on operational expenses and salaries and advertising. If you may have a lack of money, and that may be a problem, but the lack of money is not your money problem. Your money problem is how you view money, and your money problem is how you view time. What if you could just today suspend your belief that it takes 40 years, or 20 years, or 5 years, or 3 years? What if you could suspend that belief that it takes that long to make $1 million? What if just for the rest of 2025, you believed it were possible for you to make $1 million this year, even if you're nowhere close right now? What would you do? You'd start looking for opportunities and collaborative partners who could make that dream come true. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the reason you haven't found it yet is because you haven't looked for that yet. Specifically, the opportunities and the individuals who could impact your life in a way that could help you make $1 million between now, today's December 1st, and December 31st. Are there people who will do that? Yes or no? Yes. So why not you? Well, here's the difference between you and those of us who will make $1 million between now and the end of December. We've thought about how to do it and who's required. And you haven't. It's not that you can't. It's just that you haven't. But you haven't possibly because you've thought of yourself as a victim of time. And it being a constraint outside of you, and you're on this conveyor belt and it's going to keep on moving, and so you don't really have any choice. But what if that's not true? I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, what if it's not true? What if it's only true for you because you've bought into it? Okay. So time is a tool for multiplying. This is the last thing I want to talk about. In this one, like, you have to please listen to everything I'm saying right now. Time is a tool for manifesting. And I'm not talking about the woo-woo manifesting like people talk about manifestation. You're just going to speak things into existence. No, you're not. You're not. The only person who speaks things into existence is God. So I'm going to give you some etymology of the word manifest. Manifest comes from the Latin manifestus, meaning caught in the act, or plainly apprehendable, clear, apparent, or evident. Breaking it down further, manus means hand. Festus means struck or seized. So, struck by the hand, able to be grasped by the hand, it shows up in your hand. That's what manifest means. The original meaning was something so obvious and tangible, you could literally touch it. Something made physical and visible rather than hidden or abstract. In other words, you've got this idea. By the way, do you understand that all physical things are manifested? This iPad was an idea in Steve Jobs' head. And it was so clear to him that it would work and how it would work that he made his people work on it when they thought it wouldn't work. And his belief in the fact that it could be done superseded their belief in the fact that it couldn't be done. And so here we have iPads. This is a manifestation of Steve Jobs. But he didn't just manifest it for him, he manifested it for all of us who have an iPad. Okay. So it means to show up in your hand. It's like manifest. If manifest literally means to make physically real what was previously invisible or intangible. And I wouldn't say make it physically real, because that implies that physicality is reality. I would say, what if it makes it physically physical or physically available? What was previously invisible or intangible. Like, we're making it physically available. What if manifesting is taking an idea, like my book, From the Trash Man to the Cash Man? It was an idea in my head. And what did I do? I made it physically available, physically tangible. Boss Moves was an idea I had in my head, and I made it physically available and physically tangible, to the tune of selling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of books a year. So all I'm saying is, like, time is a tool that we can use for manifesting if we understand that we're not a victim of time, and that we're not at the whim of uncontrollable time. We have the ability to control ourselves and our actions in time, and therefore we have the ability to bend how time affects us. Because when we go from the west coast of wherever we are to the east coast of our destiny, we can pick which vehicle we use and determine how we're going to get there, mostly determined by our perspective of time. Is what I'm saying making sense? Okay, cool. So that's what manifest. We use time to manifest, and we do that by the decisions we make that manifest into our desires. So I make decisions. I look at the desired outcome. I make a decision in the present. I'm looking at the desired outcome in the future. Or as Dr. Ben Hardy calls it, using time as a tool to measure backwards what are the inputs that I have to do in order to reach that objective in that amount of time. So I use time we use our decision making in time to manifest our desires, so that our desires eventually show up in our hands. Does that make sense? I'm using my decision making and my discipline to decide what I'm going to do and then make sure I do it, so that when I reach X day on the calendar or X minute on the clock, hour on the clock, I have manifested or produced this outcome. We use time as discipline to manifest our desires. But if we don't use time to decide and then to have discipline, then we're probably using time as a distraction to destroy our desired outcomes. This is called wasting time. And you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. I believe the number one common denominator of uber successful people is that we hyper focus on intention and ignore distraction and avoid distraction like the plague. Average people who live average lives and stay stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck, they hyper focus on distractions, scrolling on social media, clicking the clicker and watching movies and TV shows and binge watching Netflix. There's nothing wrong with watching movies. Now, there's something wrong with watching movies if you're broke. I didn't have a television when I was broke. And I didn't realize I was broke because I spent my whole life watching television and had somebody tell me their vision for my life. And their vision for my life was for them to be rich and me to celebrate them. That's why they call them celebrities. And I have nothing to celebrate in my own life. I'm not doing it. I'm not watching a bunch of other people win while I'm losing. I'm not doing it. That was a decision I made. My daughter, who's the CEO of her company, and she has a 6-year-old of her own now. And my daughter's been married now for years. She was 16 years old when we got cable television. Why? Because we're not going to be broke as a joke and ready to choke and watching somebody else live their dream, cheering them on as they cross the finish line and make their millions of dollars. And we're broke? No. We ain't doing that. No. No. Okay. Distractions. We fill our lives with distractions. You're in a bowling league. You're in a golf league. You're playing flag football on the weekends. You're spending your October, November, and December decorating your house for holidays, and you're broke. It doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical. It's a distraction. And we use distraction as an anesthesia to anesthetize the pain of our life not becoming or going anywhere. I'm not fussing at you because I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm angry at the system that has got you to buy into all these lies that keep you stuck. I'm angry because you bought into them, and I want you to be free. And I'm saying, you can be free. You can be free. You don't have to live like this. So what are you going to do? Are you going to use time as a tool? Are you going to invest time as a resource that can be multiplied? Are you going to spend your days doom scrolling, channel surfing, and binge watching distractions to anesthetize the fact that you've refused to use time as a tool? So, that, my friends, is the Millionaire Time Machine. I am telling you that if you will sit down and put a pen and paper to the effect of $1 million is just $1 million. And maybe you want to make more than $1 million, maybe you want to make less. It really doesn't matter what the number is. But if you're struggling to pay your bills at the end of every month, it's a bigger number than the one you got now. And why do you talk about money all the time? Why are you worried about money all the time? I ain't worried about it at all. I talk about it so you don't have to worry about it anymore. That's why I talk about it. So you can stop worrying about it. So you can start realizing that money, you have